So we come to the final section, which is the advanced section for nature. And as I've already said before, you already know as a club that your nature section is very, very high. And long may it continue, really. It's always a pleasure as a judge to look at your images. And so, yeah, let's make a start. So the first image is wren in the sunlight. Once again, background, not distracting at all. I like the way that the wren's just been caught in a shaft of light, so fairly dark all the way around, quite a dark base, but there is light all the way around. Just got a bit of a catch light, plenty of feather detail, and the author has used the right aperture as well. As already previously mentioned, nature, the LNCPU and the PAGB. I won't get into what controversial nature rules are coming down the line as well. Don't want to cause too many arguments, but you know the standard is so high, you're always looking for just that little bit extra. Now, I think it's a good solid picture. Technique is absolutely there as well. It just for me needs that something a little bit extra just to push it into the awards. So the next one is wren in snow. I like the quite neutral background here. I like the snow that it's sitting on as well. Once again, the author's managed to get their camera lens almost level with the bird as well. Plenty of detail all the way through, sharp where it needs to be sharp. Absolutely used the right depth of field and the catch light in the eye. Go back to my previous comment, and you'll probably find me saying this on a number of images as part of your advanced section. Just needs that little bit extra to say, you know, how is it different to all the rest? Next one is Royal Bengal tiger. Very difficult, so congratulations to the author for even managing to get one of these. I'm assuming it is fairly wild, and I think you've done well to make sure that you filled the entire frame, and I think the size of the animal in the frame is fine as it is. Quite contrasty lighting, so the lighting on the left hand side of the frame, you are just starting to lose a little bit of detail there. It's starting to become a little bit overexposed. You might be able to just mask it down within nature rules, just be able to just tone that down, maybe about a quarter of a stop or so. I like that you've got movement in the tiger. It's got one paw off the ground as well. You can still see contact with the eyes, and I think the environment that it's in is fairly natural as well. I don't think you probably could have done any better job really with that, apart from going out on a specially organised trip to go out when the light was absolutely optimum to get that. But I if I'd have gone on a trip like that, then I'd be pleased with an image like this. The next one is redshank flypast. Once again, I like the quite neutral colour, but it's not completely grey. I can still see that it looks like it's been taken over water, so I can see a pattern in that water, and I find that quite pleasing as well. You've got catch lights in the redshank's eyes, and I think the wings are in quite a pleasing position. There's nothing burnt out on the birds, and you've got plenty of feather detail. However, in this case, I just didn't think that the birds were particularly sharp. The one at the front, possibly on the beak, is the sharpest point of the file. I'd probably want something just a little bit sharper all the way through the frame to have made it into the awards. Next one is Redshank. Once again here, commended to the author. They've got down fairly low to the level of the bird, not included any sky, and I think having the water, the lighter tone as a base, and then the darker tone behind really works. You've got, like I say, a pattern and detail in the background, knowing that it's water as well. The bird is what I would class as reasonably sharp. Is it absolutely pin sharp against the eye? When you're looking at kind of natural history, especially bird photographs, the eye really has to be the sharpest point. Everything else you can probably just get away with, especially any kind of lack of depth of field on tail feathers or on the beak. But you know, the eye absolutely pin sharp. I think it's okay. I think it's acceptably sharp. It's also fairly small within the frame. Possibly I've been tempted to either zoom in if you'd had a longer lens, or if you're right at the end of the lens, just crop in just a little bit closer. But what I do like is the reflection as well. I think that adds a little something, and so I think the lighting's been spot on the day as well. Like I say, just to make that eye, I feel, just a tad sharper. So this is Rattleweed Feeding Station. Once again, that darker background I think works as well. You've got caterpillars, kind of butterflies in various stages of development. I think for me that helps tell a bit of a story as well. You've got a challenge as part of your depth of field, because the butterflies aren't at 90 degrees to the camera, so fairly square on. But I think you've done a reasonable job. The one towards the lower end of the plant, I think, is the sharpest and also the largest as part of the frame. And you've got one or two caterpillars that are reasonably sharp as well on various parts of the plant. I think for me, what kind of lets it down is more to do with the exposure. There's just, for me, one or two highlights, especially on some of the seed heads, the flower heads as part of the plant, where for me you're really starting to lose an awful lot of detail. I would expect those to be kind of a yellowish colour all the way through, and some of these unfortunately are going down and lost quite a lot as well. Really, really unfortunate, because I think the lighting's fine. It's just the way that you've controlled it within your camera. You might be able to burn a little bit of detail in, but yeah, it's more to do with the highlight spots than the actual quality of the caterpillars and the butterflies. The next one is Migrant Hawker on Hawthorn Bush. I thought this was quite a reasonable attempt. I think you've gone out fairly early in the morning to make sure that you don't have too much movement as part of the dragonfly, but also that you've got it with its wings in optimum position, spread out as well. Even though it looks like fairly kind of a contrasty scene, I think you've done a reasonable job trying to control all of those highlights. There's nothing really burnt out. You've got one or two leaves at the top end of the frame, which, even though it doesn't have a completely uniform background like we've seen on some of the other images, it does show some of the detail and the environments all the way through. I think it's sharp where it needs to be, so the head is reasonably sharp, and then you've got the thorax all the way down the body of the dragonfly, and I think there's plenty of detail there all the way through. It's just that, once again, I preferred other images as part of the technique, as part of the sharpness, and as part of the composition as well. So this one's called Little Gull. And once again, uniform background. You've got a little bit of movement in the wings, on the tip of the wings. Don't mind that so much because the head of the bird, it is reasonably sharp as well. You've captured all of the detail. There's nothing burnt out as well. So I think it's a good attempt of a bird in flight. But once again, you go back to get into the awards, especially in your club, you're going to need just that for me, that little bit extra as part of that. Next one is Lions in the Long Grass. I like that you've managed to capture a male and a female together. One especially, mouth wide open. You can see the mane blowing in the wind as well from the male. I think for me, what's kind of let this down is I think kind of the quality of the file. I just didn't feel the definition was there. The lions are reasonably sharp, and I don't mind that, you know, one of them, the female, is half hidden by the grass because that's the natural environment. But I just didn't feel as part of the lighting, as part of that definition, that it was there as part of that, and the quality for me didn't quite come across. I don't mind the vignette that's been put on as well, but once again, I just felt that there were stronger images as part of this section. So the next one is Leopard Cub. And I felt this one, compared to the last image, had a far better definition. You've done very well. So it looks like it's been high up in a tree. So to get to kind of fairly this level, you've done a great job. You've done some very careful framing as well to make sure that you've got the tail that is in the frame. There's nothing burnt out, even though that you are shooting effectively towards the sky. And the leopard would have been in shade as well. You've still got contact with the eyes as part of that. I can understand why you've got quite a lot of what we would call base within the image, with the kind of the tree trunk, especially as you need to include the tail as well. It's sharp where it needs to be as well, and I like that the face is just within the light. It's not within the shade as well. So I think that's a very, very good attempt. So this next one is Kestrel Hunting. You filled the entire frame, and that's fine. Taken against quite a uniform blue sky, and I think that works as well. You can see the light coming through the feathers on the bird, which makes it attractive, but also you've still got detail within the shadow underneath the wings of the bird. You've got the catch light in the eye as well, and you've also got just a bit of sunlight that's coming onto the kestrel in flight. Once again, similar to the last image, I think very, very good attempt, but as part of the commendeds, highly commendeds, and the first, second and third, you can only have so many as part of the section, so I was just looking for something just a little bit extra. Next one is Hawksbill Turtle at Surface. And I really felt this was a nearly picture. So the difficulty of getting this, I commend the author as part of underwater photography. I like the reflection against the surface as well, and also the texture detail that something above the surface is then casting to cause some of the interesting reflections on the left hand side of the the frame. It's not uniform completely across the frame. You've taken it fairly square on, and so as part of that, yes, you've got detail in the head of the turtle, and you can see underneath detail as well. It's always going to be very, very difficult and easy for me to say as a judge, if only. It would have possibly been more advantageous if we'd have had a slightly different viewpoint, maybe coming towards. I think if the turtle had been coming towards the photographer, then would it have added a little bit more of a dynamic angle to it? Maybe a touch bigger in the frame as well. However, similar to the previous two images, I still think as part of using images for your club competitions in LNCPU or against other clubs, it will do extremely well for you. And the next image is Cheeky Otter. You've not chosen to show the entire length of the otter, and that's your personal choice. But I think if you weren't going to show it as part of your framing, I would probably have cropped a little bit lower down. Unfortunately, I think because its paws are just out of shot, you've kind of half chopped through them. Either just show me the head or show me just below the paws. I think that's the decision. I like that you've got two fairly strong catchlights in the eyes. The otter looks attentive as well. I think for me, though, what kind of I struggle with as part of this image is more to do with the exposure. For me, it's slightly overexposed on the right-hand side of the otter. You might be able to just do some selective dodging and burning just to tone it down a little bit. Also, if you want to push your photography just a little bit more, then showing me a little bit of animal behaviour as well. Otter with some kind of catch or prey might have just added for me just a little bit more to the story. But hopefully you'll see when we come on to the award winners next why hopefully I've chosen them. So we come on to the commendeds to start with. So the first commended is called a Kip Springer. And I liked this. The author's placed it centrally in the frame. I like the lighting. You've got the catchlight in the eye, beautifully sharp where it needs to be. Also, as part of that kind of surroundings, I like the frame on each side. I've got a base with lighting on those rocks, but I can see trees on each side, but still have a clear view of the animal as well. I like the position that it's in, showing the environment and also the behaviour, and the lighting for me is absolutely spot on. So that's my first commended. My second commended is Male Orange Tip. I like the subdued green background. There's nothing distracting at all. An interesting plant that it's sitting on, and as part of the technique and the sharpness all the way through, I think the quality's there and the definition as part of the butterfly. Once again, absolutely superb natural history image. My third commended is Reed Warbler with Food. I liked the coloration as part of the file. The images, the leaves especially on, and the reeds on the right hand side have quite a painterly effect, whether that's intentional or whether that is just part of the lighting that's been portrayed. I think the bird is quite a good size in the frame, and once again, to make it kind of lift it just something a little bit different, not only have I got the catchlight in the eye, but also got some prey as well, some catch, and I think for me that adds to the story. So once again, a well-deserved commended. My fourth commended is the Stone Chat resting. Completely uniform background, very, very simple composition. The perch, the plant that it's sitting on, very, very stark, but I think that's made quite effective. You've got the quality through the bird, and once again, you've got the catch light as well. And my final commended is white-fronted bee-eater. And once again, I liked the background. It's got everything that you look for as part of a nature picture. I like the coloration. I think that it's natural as part of the bird. Good, strong lighting, the catch light as well, and absolutely pin sharp in all the critical places. So we'll come on to the highly commendeds, and we'll start with Sanderling. Once again, the author, the photographer's got down to the same level as the bird. That really, really helps. Quite a uniform background once again. I like the lighting, quite a clear catch light in that very, very dark eye. There's nothing burnt out as part of what's been shown. And for me, I just like the extra tension as part of the image, which is the foot out of the water and the other foot just being pulled out the water with a little bit of mud on as well. So it shows a bit of movement in a static image. My second highly commended is the grouse, red grouse. Once again, the coloration, the technique. I like the grouse's mouth is open as well. The catch light, I think it's a good size in the frame, but still space to move into as well. And another stunning shot. And the third, highly commended, of which any of these could have had first, second, third, or highly commended, is the purple heron with vole. And I think it's an absolute cracking picture. Just enough detail in the background. I love the vole, which looks like he's clinging onto the beak with grim death. Open. I'm not sure which one's more surprised, the vole or the heron. But yeah, absolute cracking picture and pin sharp all the way through. And that'll do very well for you as a club as well in competitions. So we're coming to the final few places now, and third place goes to Four Spotted Chaser and Exuvia. And once again, absolute stunning image. The lighting's spot on as well. I liked it because it shows animal or insect behaviour as well. Pin sharp where it needs to be. Nothing distracting at all. My second place goes to Common Turn Disposing of Young. And the reason why I picked this image to be second is I just felt it was unusual. I like, first of all, the common turn. I like the V shape in the wings. I like the still detail in the background just about as well. And it's just the chick, even though towards the bottom of the frame, just showing animal behaviour as well. A really, really unusual shot, and I'm sure the photographer's been very, very pleased to capture this moment as part of animal behaviour. Which means there is one image left, which is the broad-bodied chaser on flag iris, and I just felt out of all the images tonight, this one just had just that exceptional quality as part of the technical quality, the lighting that's come together, depth of field, the sharpness is absolutely stunning as part of the image as well. And so the author is to be congratulated on a very, very worthy winner of the Advanced Nature section. So that's the end of the judging. I hope that you have enjoyed my recorded comments. Unfortunately, I'm not there in person for you to throw tomatoes at or whatever. but hopefully it's provided a little bit of insight into your images. So thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.